when you talk about pair, what are terahertz waves? Is it something new? Is it something that we have not come across? Well, terahertz radiation lies between microwave and the infrared regions, what is known as the electromagnetic spectrum, which includes visible light. This light is part of the spectrum. So it is shorter, it is longer than the visible light, okay? And the frequency is given here, 0.1 times 10 to the power of 12, and that's quite a lot, 10 to the power of 12, more than trillion, is it? Or 6 is a million, 9 is a billion, 12 is about trillion. So what is it used for? It's primarily used for telecommunications, where they are better than microwave. Any of you have a 5G mobile phone? You all don't have. We have 4G. 4G is in the microwave range. 5G is closer to the terahertz, and 6G is definitely terahertz waves. So that's to place it. So you understand that this is not something special with this device and work like magic. No, it is science. It is something used mostly in telecommunication. And the interesting thing about terahertz wave is that every molecule has a fingerprint. It has a fingerprint, that means it has resonate at a certain frequency which is in a terahertz range. So you know that all solids resonate at a certain frequency. You've heard of stories a singer can, especially a soprano singer, can pitch her voice until it can crack a glass. Now that is the frequency of the glass. And you know that bridge can collapse if people marching across it march at the same pace. And if it's at the same resonant frequency as the bridge will collapse. It's been documented. So the fact that our cells have a frequency and it's in the terahertz range means a lot for the use of TerraCare, which we are doing. So this is a electromagnetic spectrum from very short gamma rays and X-rays to visible light. Visible light is such a narrow range, as you can see here. Violet. So visible light is only a short portion here. Above this is infrared. Terahertz is here. Microwave is here. Radio waves. So we first discovered radio waves, we use it, and then later on more and more use was made of it. And of course all of you use microwave oven, right? And microwave is very useful. It heats up the water by agitating the molecules. And of course there's infrared. When you sit and the sun shines on you, a portion of the light is infrared. If you have a campfire and it makes you feel good, that's because of the infrared waves also. So infrared has been used a lot, not only for night photography where there's no light you still can see, but infrared has been used a lot in physiotherapy and in a lot of health devices. Terahertz is actually far infrared. It technically is called far infrared. So this is where it is on the electromagnetic spectrum. So you know that it is something that is there. But how come people don't study terahertz? For a very simple reason. Radio waves are used to study easily. Light we can study photonics. Electricity, radio waves we study under electronics. But terahertz seems to neither here nor there. So it's kind of a no man's land. Until in the 1990s when science was advanced enough for people to discover better ways of generating terahertz waves of detecting and monitoring terahertz waves. The breakthrough was in 2011 when terahertz technology was used to illuminate a painting, an ancient painting, and they were able to uncover the artist's name, which was hidden below surface, the surface layer. They were also able to detect underlying painting as well. You see, so this is remarkable. So before that, we can't understand terahertz waves. So there is called what is the terahertz gap, which is between X-rays, radio waves on one side, and infrared and radar waves on the other. Okay? So that's what it means by the terahertz gap. Classical electronics is here, classical photonics is this side. And if you read the news, you will know that recently, China has made a lot of advances in this area called photonics. There's a lot of advances, and it's not surprised that this comes from China because of the great advances in research in the terahertz region. But research on terahertz comes from all over the world. Even our local university are studying terahertz waves in relation to engineering. So that's what it is. It's not something magical. It is something that is real and scientifically proven. What are the applications? I talk about telecommunications. The military has a a strong interest in studying terahertz because for security reasons. Applications, you can penetrate through objects to see what's underneath. And they demonstrate it very well. A person carrying a rifle in it may not be detected by the usual waves, but terahertz is able to do so. Very powerful. Agriculture, and this is particularly in China. It can be used for drought monitoring, pesticide control, seed or oil monitoring. I am not expert in this area. Don't ask me how it's done. If you want to, you can always find out how. So in health and science, we also use it. It is non-ionizing. As I said earlier on, it resonates as cellular frequencies. It's the same frequency as your cells. So it has been called the light of life for that reason. So I want to talk about the healing properties of terahertz because that's where I'm in. And as far as the healing properties are concerned, there are two reasons why terahertz can have that property to heal you. One is the healing property, the heat. Like microwave, when it impinges on water, it agitates the water molecules and generate heat. Terahertz has that property. So when you shine far infrared heat energy, which is terahertz wave, it penetrates. When it hits the water molecule, like microwave, it will stimulate the agitation of the water molecules, and therefore heat will be out. So it has the ability to do all these things. Push out toxins stored in fat cells. Your fat cells have a lot of toxins, if you don't know. And there's also resonance. The other thing that enables it to be healing is the vibration. Now we all know, for many years now, people have been using vibration, using sound, okay, and using specific frequencies to calm people down. Even Chinese Qigong and all that make use of vibrational energy. Okay, so this is all classified under what is known as energy medicine, if you do not know. So that's how it's used. So the medical application, there are two types. One is diagnostic, that means there are machines that use terahertz wave to shine onto your body, and it can detect like X-rays what is going on underneath your body. So it's much more sharper than a lot of other radiations that are being used. Okay, so in the bone, for example, terahertz waves can make out different layers in your bone. But I'm going to talk more about therapy, and that's what this talk is focused on. So the properties of terahertz with regard to therapeutics is number one is non-ionizing. If you remember, you are advised not to go for too many X-rays, right? Why? Because it can ionize the molecules in your body and make them radioactive. And there's a risk of cancers and disease as a result. It can penetrate through material with dielectric property. Dielectrics means it does not conduct electricity. So it can penetrate through clothing, it can penetrate through wood. If I shine a terahertz beam onto the door, on the other side you can pick up the same beam because it can penetrate through the door. Wood is not a conductor of electricity. So anything that doesn't conduct electricity, it will penetrate. Anything that conducts electricity will absorb it. So water can conduct electricity, so it will be absorbed by water. Okay? And metals can conduct electricity. So metals will absorb it. And so that's why there is the instruction that if you have some implants in your body, you have to be careful when using it. So because different tissues in your body have different water concentration, it is absorbed differently by various tissues because of the difference in water concentration. And the energy is correspond to what is known as hydrogen bonds or van der Waals forces. These are forces. For example, you know that your egg is made up of your albumin, the egg white is made up of protein, right? And you know that protein is actually a very long molecule that is folded up in places. So these folds are held in place not by molecular bonds, not by the usual force that hold atoms together, but by these hydrogen bonds. It link it up together. It's the same reason why terahertz water is better, because the water is held together by this term van der Waals forces which hold it together. So that's why water has a certain surface tension. That means you pour the water, you put it up, there's still water there, because these van der Waals forces hold the water molecules together. So terahertz water breaks up these forces, so it's easier to flow, easier to absorb, and easier to move through the cell membrane. So because of this, terahertz can change the shape of molecules, and this is very important. So in so far that it can make you feel better and cure you of diseases. So as we say earlier on, normal human cells resonate at a frequency at the terahertz range. So therefore it can augment, it can activate the activity of normal human cells, and it can regulate biological systems by changing the interaction of molecules inside the body. You know, our body is very complex. Modern medicine is all about the study of the human body, and each part of the body, they are specialists focusing their attention on it. So in general, there are a few things that terahertz does to your body. One, it open up blood vessels. It dilates. There's open up blood vessels. Okay. So when blood vessels are open up, there's more blood flow. And of course, when there's more blood flow, it's always good. And secondly, vibrating water molecule become activated. Cell organelle. In the body, there is a tiny little organelle called the mitochondria. The mitochondria is the factory house of the cell. It can increase production. Okay? And sometimes cells are hyperactive, inflammation, right? As a result of inflammation, you have redness, you have swelling and all that. So inflammations are due to hyperactive cells that are supposed to kill germs and protect you, but sometimes they can cause diseases, as in lupus, and many diseases nowadays, including heart attacks, are believed to be due to inflammation. Okay? So these hyperactive cells, terahertz waves is able to regulate and make it cool down. And of course, there's an effect on DNA, which is to unzip it. So, how does it open up? This is our blood vessels, okay, arteries, and go to the veins. Now, it pumps from the heart under pressure, right? You know that the heart pump. So, under pressure, what happens? Water, oxygen flow out, right? As it goes to the veins are low pressure system. By the time you reach here, all the pressure is gone. Used to drive out all the waters and all the solids. So you enter here, all the waste products, all the water go back. Carbon dioxide also get in here. But because it's a low pressure system, there's nothing to force it to go back into the veins. So that's why the body has a system of pipes or tubes called lymph vessels, which drain off the excess water and the substances and return them to the blood and to the heart. Okay, so there is a circulatory system. So terahertz open up all the blood vessels and make this circulation go faster, which means the transport of oxygen, nutrients and everything is faster, and because this is faster, this going back is also faster. So in other words, you clear things from your, we call this detoxification, isn't it? I'm sure you heard of the term. Regulate inflammation response. Now when there's a lot of inflammation, there are a lot of inflammatory cells which are released. All of this. Microscopically, they look like that. These are a white blood cell, granules. And terahertz is able to come down, able to downregulate, to reduce the activity of the cells. Amazing when you think about it. People who suffer from chronic inflammation, whether on the skin or elsewhere in the body, would very much like their swelling, the irritation and the discoloration to go away. This does make it go away. Activate normal cells. So as I said, in the mitochondria, is the powerhouse of the cell. The mitochondria has a lot of functions. Okay, it's just to illustrate. I'm not going to explain all the functions because it's very full and I'm sure you can't remember it as well. It ranges from transport to metabolism to synthesize, that means to make all kinds of cofactors, to destroy cells or cell organelles that are not of any use anymore. It can signal, it can change the architecture of the cell, protein import, a lot of things. Okay, all these are illustrations. So that's what happened within the cell. This is microscopic. You can't actually see it. You need an electron microscope to see this. So cause apoptosis of normal cells. Apoptosis means the cell dies. So a cell have a normal lifespan. When a cell reaches the end of its lifespan, it has to be destroyed so that it doesn't cause problems for our body. And so the body has natural means whereby they can destroy cells that are old and no longer useful and may degenerate. So as cells become old, they are able to release proteins which have this signal, find me, eat me up, It's the ways the body regulates itself. So when these signals are picked up by other organelles, they got engulfed by, let's say, macrophages, and when they are engulfed, they are dissolved by certain enzymes. That's what is happening here, dissolved and degraded. So that's how our body renews itself, you see. There's a system whereby it's done. Then it can sterilizes bacteria and viruses. In fact, this was how I got interested in terahertz. Because during COVID, there was research paper that showed that it has this ability to kill viruses. it not only can kill viruses, it can kill bacteria, fungus, and all kinds of microorganisms. So, if in Singapore, because of the hot weather, a lot of people have fungal infection because of the sweat that they produce. Okay, so this is very effective against that. You can activate DNA. As you know, DNA is in a strand, a double strand, right? Two strands together, side by side. And when it is side by side, the DNA is not active. To be active, the strand must be separated so that the DNA within the strand can begin to do the things that it's supposed to do. So THZ has the ability to open the zip up with the help of this enzyme called helicase, and then it can begin to do the work. Primase is going to print chemicals, just like what do you call that, 3D printing, right? You can actually print molecules, print enzymes or whatever, right? And also when you want to multiply cells, you also got to open up the zip. Then you can synthesize another one to make it into two. And it takes place because you open up the zip of the DNA, and THZ has the ability to do that. So, I've given you a general overview of what THZ can do, and now we look at the blood, which is what I'm going to focus on today. When you look at the blood, what do we think of as is used? The blood is a transport. Think of the MRT. Okay? MRT, you have the railway, the network of railway, correct? The railway stations, okay? And all the signals there. Now, that is the MRT. So the circulation is the MRT. The arteries, the veins, the pump, the heart, the muscle pump in your legs, they are all the MRT system of the body. What is the blood? The blood is a train. So with all this system there, something must go through in order for transport to take place, right? You have the rails, no transport is happening. But if you put a train there, it can bring people from one place to another. So the blood serves this function. So the key function of the blood is transport. And if you remember that, you know what it is. What does it do? It delivers oxygen, nutrients, hormones, all kinds of things in the blood. And it also drains things. So it not only brings the good stuff, all that you need, but when there's wastage, when after you do anything, after you do all the functions, there will be waste. Even if you have a factory to make goods, there will be waste products, isn't it? Even if you eat, you digest, you have all the food, you also have waste products, right? And so that's what it is. So it looks like that. The blood vessel, white blood cell. Oh, plasma is a very important part of the blood. Plasma is the water. Okay? And in the plasma, it carries a lot of things like platelets, which is necessary for you to clot. It contains red blood cells, and it contains all the proteins, all the white blood cells, and all that is meant to protect you. So that is a function of the blood. Now let's talk specifically about transport of oxygen. Okay, one of the most important things of blood and the function of blood is a transport of oxygen. The blood goes to the lungs, it picks up the oxygen. When you breathe in air, correct? Of which 20% is oxygen, and oxygen is absorbed by the blood. And then the blood is pumped throughout the body. It goes into every part of your body, your muscles, your various organs, and oxygen is then delivered to the different organs. And when they deliver oxygen to the different organs, as oxygen is removed from the blood, carbon dioxide, which is a waste product of burning oxygen, is absorbed back into the bloodstream to be carried away back to the lungs to be expelled from the lungs. So this is essentially the system, the capillaries, where transport is taking place between the blood vessel and your body. It takes place here. Okay. So to transport oxygen, you need something called hemoglobin, which is actually a protein. It has two parts: the heme, which contains iron, and globin, which is a protein. Together, the iron, if you know your chemistry, can alternate between the ferric and the ferrous. A ferrous is a reduced state, ferric is an oxidized state. That means they capture oxygen. So the ferrous can capture the oxygen, it becomes ferric. When you release the oxygen, it becomes ferrous. Okay? So that's why iron is involved now. Hemoglobin is biconcave in shape. You see, is almost like a donut with the center a bit flatter. This shape allows you a greater surface area, and it's a thin cell membrane. The cell membrane allows oxygen and carbon dioxide to flow through. So that's what it is. And the blood vessels in the capillary, in the smallest blood vessel, is so narrow that only one red blood cell can go through at one time. It's that narrow. And one red blood cell you can't see with the naked eye. You need a microscope to see them. So these are the things that is transported. Nutrients, digested food from your small intestines, they are broken down. Carbohydrates is broken down into sugars, fat is broken up into fatty acids, and what they call the triglycerides. Protein is broken up into tiny amino acids. So these broken down chemicals are absorbed and distributed to the rest of the body. Waste products. What are waste products? There are two kinds of waste products. One is water. Water goes to your kidney and is passed out. And then a lot of substance, solids, molecules are brought to the liver where they are detoxified, where they are combined with certain chemicals to render them inert. So they are no longer active, they won't destroy, and they are secreted through the liver, through the bile duct system. Then hormones. Hormones, I given the talk the last time. Hormones are produced all over, from all parts of the endocrine system into your body to regulate how your body functions. Control your growth, control your development, your mood, your metabolism, your ability to reproduce, and as well as the function of many organs. It also transports white blood cells, which is for your own protection. The white blood cells are the defense part of your body. It has all the ability to defend against any and everything that come into your body and make you suffer from disease and all kinds of things, pain, anything. So, blood transport, yes, we talk about the blood, the hemoglobin, we talk about all these things, but we must not forget the plasma, the water. So, red blood cell transport oxygen, this set, flexible and biconcave. And so transport oxygen is the main thing, carbon dioxide, food material, waste product, heat. It's all used to regulate heat. You can take away the heat. Transport hormones, transport water to tissue. So this is a very important thing that the blood serves, a very important functions. Now, at the very fundamental level is at the level of capillaries. That's where all the exchange takes place, isn't it? all the good things get delivered to the different cells, and all the waste, all the bad things get absorbed back into the bloodstream to be detoxified or removed. So sometimes, due to injury, there's a breach. Your capillary can rupture, can be broken, and when that happens, you need to stop the bleed so that not everything will not be drained away to the outside. So that is what is known as the clotting response. So the blood has this ability to clot. Your blood becomes solid. And we'll talk a little later on about this clotting thing. If there's infection or if there's disease, there is an inflammatory response. The inflammatory response is meant to neutralize whatever pathogens that attack your body. And it does so by having the inflammation response. So during inflammation, what happened? The capillary actually open up. So more blood can come through, and blood will be released into the surrounding, or fluid at least, from the serum of the blood. Protein also flow out. And that's why when there's an infection or when there's injury, the part that's involved is swollen, it feels warm because of all the blood fluid all there, and it looks red. So that is all these are indication of inflammation. What's the purpose of inflammation? Well, we want to eliminate pathogenic factor. So if you are attacked by bacteria, viruses, like during COVID, when the COVID virus attack your nose or your lungs, you want to remove them. You want to encircle them and neutralize them. That's what the inflammation purpose is. And then you want to remove necrotic cells. Necrotic cells are dead cells. Cells that have died as a result of injury, as a result of being attacked or whatever. And then you need to repair the tissue. So depending on the stage of the inflammation, different chemicals and substances are brought to that place for this thing to take place. And it's very unique, it's very remarkable how this happened, because it's almost automatic. Certain chemicals will trigger off certain release of chemicals, specific chemicals, which does the job that it's supposed to do. And when you think about it, it's rather amazing, isn't it? So an inflammation usually subsides when the problem is gone. Like when your wound heals and there's a scar, that means repair has taken place, and the breach is repaired by the laying down of fibrous tissue which forms your scar. Isn't it?
No. What is inflammation?
What?
Inflammation.
Huh?
Inflammation.
Inflammation is for this purpose. Inflammation, as I explained, has to do with the swelling, so that the necessary chemicals and whatever is brought in. Okay? So inflammation only becomes chronic if you are continually exposed to it. For example, back in those days, people who work in certain factory are exposed to dust, like asbestosis. People who asbestos factory get exposed to asbestos dust, which is toxic. Okay, so it creates stimulation. Cells keep on having to respond to it with all the white blood cells and everything. Or you cannot eliminate the cause of the inflammation, which is bacteria in COVID. The inflammation is prolonged. It prolonged to the point where the inflammation is overactive, hyperactive, where you get killed by the inflammation itself. That's what happened in COVID. That's why we use steroids in COVID to tone down the inflammation response. So this is a very important concept. And in fact, we only realized it in the last, how many, 10, 20, 30 years, that inflammation, when it's over the limit, it can actually kill you. Even though it's supposed to protect you.
One more question. What
Yes.
causes inflammation?
Huh?
What are the causes of inflammation?
Something attack you. Ask all the questions behind. If you pay attention, I've explained this. When you're attacked by anything, there will be inflammation. The inflammation is meant to protect you. Okay? Follow?
Attack by what? What attack?
Huh?
What will attack by what?
Attack means, as I explained, when there is environmental dust which pollutes, which harm you, or there's bacteria, viruses that harms you, of course your body must protect, right? So inflammation is a response to do that. Okay? So, when there's inflammation, okay, what happens is sometimes the capillaries get broken up. When your capillaries get broken up, this is what it looks like. Okay? And then all this redness, venous insufficiency. When there's too much swelling, water can't flow through. It's like your pipes are choked. So when the pipes are choked, things accumulate. Your skin turn red or turn purple. So it looks like that. This is the result of inflammation. Okay? So some interesting things about blood cells. If you have party games, these facts may be useful to instigate people to think. Now, if you place all the blood vessels edge to edge, all the blood vessels, it's a total of 60,000 miles, which means you can go around the earth twice. For a red blood cell to go from the heart to the body and back, and back again, it takes 1 minute. It's that fast. 1 minute it goes round. The lifespan of a red blood cell is 120 days. So if it's shorter than that, something is destroying your red blood cells. Your body can make 2 million red blood cells in 1 second. That's a lot, isn't it? The heart pumps every beat. Every beat, how much comes out? Approximately 5 tablespoons. Roughly. 5 tablespoons, about 75 cc's. So it's about 50 to 100 cc's. Okay? So these are interesting facts for you to quiz people, to make fun, have some fun and fun facts, as you say. White blood cells. So you have red blood cells, you have the white blood cells. White blood cells are the soldiers of your body. Okay? There are 2 kinds of white blood cells basically. 3. There's the monocytes. Monocytes are the scavengers. They actually surround and kill microorganisms. They ingest foreign material. Any foreign things will be ingested, whether it's virus, bacteria, or even solid, any toxic substances, any environmental dust or pollutants is ingested by monocytes. Then lymphocytes. There are 2 types of lymphocytes. One type is known as the T cells. I'm sure during COVID you heard this mentioned, T cells, also called natural killer cells or NK, and they protect the body from infection. They also fight against cancer. So if you have a cancer, when the doctor takes your white blood cells, they want to measure the T cells, the NK. If it's high, it's good. You have a good survival chance. If it's low, very poor, and you got to think of ways and means to overcome that. There's lymphocytes, B cells. B cells makes the antibody. So by now, after COVID, you know what are antibodies, right? Antibodies are the chemicals that combine with the toxic proteins of the virus and bacteria to neutralize them. So, and they say that the immunity is in 2 phases, right? The first one is the antibody one. First come, the antibodies come and catch whatever that is foreign. The second one is a T cells. It's a cellular immunity, where the cell look for the virus to swallow it up. Then the other big group is the granulocytes. Granulocytes are so called because they are granules. As you see in some pictures just now, you see cells with substances being stained. Okay. So there are three types of granulocytes depending on the staining of those granules in the white blood cell. If they are neutral, they are called neutrophils. If they stain by alkali, they are called basophils. If they are stained by acid, they are called eosinophils. And they serve different functions. Neutrophils attack bacteria and viruses. Basophils defend against allergens, pathogens, and parasites. And allergens and pathogens are non-living contaminants in the atmosphere, right? And eosinophils are active against parasites as well as cancers. So they have different functions, and they're named differently because of the way they appear under the microscope. So that's how different are: neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil, monocyte, lymphocyte. They all look different under the microscope. That's why we name them differently. They also have different functions. So that's what a white blood cell looks like. As you can see, this is either a lymphocyte or monocyte. These are the red blood cells. Okay. And in the blood, they are all mixed up together. These things are the platelets. Platelets are responsible for clotting, right? They protect you from bleeding. So, diseases of the blood, there are three groups. One is anemia, which is a lack of blood. And at various times, for various reasons, you may or may not have suffered from anemia. And clotting disorders, I think they are terribly important. There are many clotting disorders, but I'll focus on three that are relevant to most of us, especially those of you who are elderly. And then we talk about blood cancers, which is very common when you look at it. Not all, but some are common. So let's look at anemias. There's a whole list of anemias. I don't think there's any point in reading the list out because I'll be going to describe them in some detail. Okay, so let's go into them with some detail. Anemia looks like this. Normal looks like this. Normally in the blood vessel, you have enough blood cells passing. In anemia, no traffic, not much traffic. Anemia, you feel weak, you can't breathe, you're very susceptible to infection. Bacteria, viruses come, you can easily get them. And you tend to eat all kinds of funny things. Pica is a term used when people began to eat things like paper, plastic, or whatever, So people with this habit is called pica. Then pallor, you look pale, and you normally look at here, or you look at the fingernails. If your blood is normal, when you press your fingernail, it becomes white. The minute you let go, it becomes red again. When you're anemia, you press, the red comes back slowly. So if somebody says, looks pale, you do this test. To be sure, you are not sure, do press the thumb, the fingernail of a few people and you get an idea of which is fast, which is slow. And that's how you can tell. And of course you got cold hands in these. Okay? So deficiency anemias. This group of anemias are due to something deficient in your diet. Let's go through. B12, usually associated with a vegan diet. Any vegans here? No. There's some people who go on a vegan diet for health reasons. Absolutely fine. But you run the risk of B12 deficiency. All you need to do is to take B12, and that's good enough. An injection every 3 months can do the trick as well. So, if you are vegan and you don't have enough B12, because B12 comes from meat, fish, eggs, things like that, milk.
Nuts. What about nuts?
Huh?
Nuts.
Nuts is vegetable. I'm not sure about nuts. I got to check that out. But then you can check it out anytime. Nuts is considered a fruit or
Nuts is considered part of the protein.
oh, vegetable proteins are different from animal protein.
No, they're saying that you take nuts can replace the meat.
Can we postpone this? Let me finish my talk.
Okay.
Okay? Unless you want to give the talk, you're welcome. Alright. So, it's associated B12 is associated with meat products. And therefore, if you don't take actually meat, you really need some supplementation of B12. The other deficiency, there is the mirror image is folate deficiency. Associated folate is found in fruits, vegetables. Okay? And if you don't have enough, you need to take folate. Okay, sometimes we take a shortcut in pregnancy, you need folate. So instead of asking them to take vegetables and fruits, and doctors can't quite believe that people will take their advice, so they give a folate to be sure. But there's a downside to taking folate. Recently, an article has appeared that say if you take a multivitamin, it may not be good if you have cancer. That's perfectly true, because some cancers grow on folate. Some cancers, they particularly thrive if you give folate. So if you take too much folate and you have this kind of cancers, you actually encourage your cancer to grow faster. So something not desirable. So you have to be careful there. The best is eat naturally, eat vegetables, fruits, much better. Pernicious anemia. Pernicious anemia is very similar to B12. It is an autoimmune disease. That means it's a disease where the body attacks itself. Okay? And when the body attacks itself, what it's missing is that B12 needs something in the stomach called the intrinsic factor. The stomach must produce something, a protein called the intrinsic factor. B12 is the extrinsic factor, and the two combined, B12 can absorb. Then there's iron deficiency anemia. In other words, there's a lack of iron in the diet, but most of the time, iron deficiency anemia is a result of a loss of blood somehow. How did this loss of blood occur? Women who menstruate, every month they pass out some blood, so then the iron store get depleted, or bleeding from the gut if you have cancer or you have some infestation in the gut that cause you to bleed, slow bleed over months, over days, over months, over years, you can get iron deficiency anemia. Then there's anemia which is also due to deficiency, and it's called megaloblastic anemia. It's due to a lack of B12, folate, or both, and this is usually dietary. So when you see a megaloblastic anemia, it can be due to B12, it can be due to folate, it can be an autoimmune disease called pernicious anemia. So depending on the cause, you will deal with it accordingly. The shortcut, of course, is take B12 and folate. If it didn't work, then you got to look at it again. If it worked, then either one or the other. Okay? Right? So pernicious anemia is like that. This is pernicious anemia. Stomach cells attack and intrinsic factor is blocked. So when you take food with vitamin B12, okay, if you have the intrinsic factor and B12 combine together, okay, B12 enter into the bloodstream and you have your B12 needed for survival. If you don't have the intrinsic factor, your stomach cannot produce the intrinsic factor, your B12 won't be absorbed, and so B12 cannot enter the bloodstream. So this is an autoimmune disease. And that's what megaloblastic anemia looks like. These are normal cells. Megaloblastic anemia, like its name suggests, megalo, big. So it looks big. Iron deficiency anemia, the most common type of anemia, you have fatigue, palpitations, poor focus, you can't focus, you're weak, you have headaches, and there's a leg tremor, restless leg syndrome. Then there are some anemias that are genetic in nature. Thalassemia, you heard of it? It's not that rare, but not that common also. I mean, it does occur. So in thalassemia is an inherited recessive gene. That means if you have one gene of thalassemia, you are a carrier. Okay? But when you have two genes, you come down with the actual disease itself. And thalassemia is not able to manufacture your hemoglobin, and the result is the hemoglobin gets destroyed. So when it's destroyed, this process is called hemolytic. And if you have thalassemia major, that is, you are not just a carrier, you can lead to heart failure, life problem, and they don't live longer than 30 years. So people with thalassemia always end up being admitted repeatedly as a pediatric patient in the pediatric wards. Why? For blood transfusion, because there's not enough blood. Sickle cell anemia, not so often in this part of the world, more often in Africa. The cell is like the red blood cell is like the shape of a sickle. It confers some protection against malaria, but the oxygen level is very low. So in a way you can survive malaria, but there's a cost to it. Hemolytic anemia is used due to the destruction of hemoglobin and the red blood cells. It can be inherited, and infection can cause it. Certain medication you take can cause it. Right? So essentially, blood is being destroyed. There's jaundice, tiredness, your heart rhythm may be abnormal, and it can lead to heart failure. So this is thalassemia, abnormal blood vessels. Sickle cell anemia is like that. Right? Hemolytic anemia, what happened is that the red blood cells is affected by an enzyme. The hemoglobin is then bound. Amino acids, when the heme is separated, and you got the jaundice, which is due to the heme. Spleen get enlarged. So this hemolytic anemia, the hemoglobin, the red blood cell die prematurely. Aplastic anemia, and this is serious. Aplastic anemia, the body attacks itself. The body failed to manufacture red blood cells. That's how serious it is. So when your body fails to manufacture red blood cells, what is the reason? People believe it's due to damage to the stem cells. The only cure is to do a bone marrow transplant. Yeah. This is one area where you need to do that. So anemia can also caused by chronic disease. All kinds of diseases in causes, lupus, rheumatoid, HIV, TB, chronic kidney disease, Crohn's disease, all kinds of disease can cause anemia. Okay? Of course, then you deal with the cause, which is the disease itself. So, this is aplastic anemia. The stem cells are altered. They either produce new antigens or they cannot multiply. The result is not enough red blood cells, not enough white blood cells. Okay? So, this effect on the stem cell can be inherited or it can be congenital due to the various things we talk about, diseases, because so normal under microscope it looks like that. Aplastic, you see fewer cells, and there's no B12, folate, or iron deficiency. This is how we do a bone marrow transplant. The bone marrow is usually taken from a donor, mind you. A donor who was willing to donate the bone marrow. You put a needle into the pelvis here, the hip bone, and you suck out the blood from inside the bone marrow, and stem cells inside can then start to produce all this. Okay? That's the purpose of a bone marrow transplant, to harvest stem cells from a normal donor and then give it to the patient. Okay? Clotting disorders. I will cover 3. There's a lot of others which are very rare, we won't cover. You all heard of deep vein thrombosis? I'm sure you have heard. No? Any of you travel by air for holidays or whatever? You all have, right? Do you know you're at risk for DVT? You are. Pay attention. Thrombosis is a clot that forms in blood vessels, causing blockage of blood flow. So, if a thrombosis occurs in an artery, like in the heart, a thrombosis occurs in your artery, it becomes a heart attack. A thrombosis occurs in your brain, it becomes a stroke. How about a thrombosis occur in the vein? You have that deep vein thrombosis or pulmonary embolism. DVT, the most common cause of DVT is when you're on a flight and you sit too long, especially you fly to Europe or to America. You sit down for too long and you don't move. Your blood don't move. So blood collect in your veins and then clot. And that's DVT. Okay? People who are obese tend not to move. They also has a risk for it. People who have to stay in bed last time we didn't know about this. So people with sickness, fractures or whatever have to be in bed for months, right? They don't move them. They call DVT. Now we know. Now we turn them around. We make them move their arms and legs, right? It can lead to pulmonary embolism. It can coexist with pulmonary embolism. And the symptoms are very simple. It is deep inside your calf muscle. You know your calf muscle? There are veins there. The calf muscle is called the pump. It pumps blood back from the legs to your heart. It's also a pump. So when you move it, you pump your blood in your calf muscle, pump the blood there to return to the heart. So if there's deep vein thrombosis, your legs will be painful, there'll be swelling, there'll be cramps, it feels warm, and your skin color also changes to red or purple. So this one, deep vein thrombosis, this side is normal, this side is DVT. This side is normal, this is DVT, deep vein thrombosis. So yes, as I said to you, It's deep inside the calf muscle. This is healthy, this is normal. But if you don't move, it begins to clot. Blood pool, because there's no contraction of a calf muscle, it doesn't move, it becomes clot, and then it becomes thrombotic. When it blocked completely, and blood can't flow through, that is deep vein thrombosis. So that's why nowadays people are more aware. The last 5-6 years or so, when I went to the US, you see a lot of people going out to the toilet. People don't want to go back to their seats, move their legs in an effort to prevent deep vein thrombosis. You see? So next time you go on a long haul flight, any flight longer than 4 or 5 hours, make sure you keep your legs moving so that you don't get deep vein thrombosis. Pulmonary embolism comes about when, if you have deep vein thrombosis, let's say you got blocked, but what happens if some of the clots didn't stay in the veins of your legs but dislodge and flow into your heart and flow into your lungs? What happened? It can be blocked in the lungs. So when the clot block in the veins of the lungs, it's called pulmonary embolism. Okay? And what do you get? You get sudden shortness of breath, chest pain, feeling cold and dizzy. You may cough up blood because there's blood blockage, so there's a swelling. Your blood vessels swell up. So pulmonary embolism is here. From the heart it goes to the thing and it's blocked there. Blocked there, see? Blood vessel swell. On an X-ray. Now it's a shadow, so it's very hard to see, but if you can see that in this direction is swollen. It's very hard to make up. It took me quite some time before I figured it out. Further you are, you can see it a bit clearer. You are too close, you can't see. Okay, risk factors for DVT. Age, most important reason. The older you are, the more you're prone to deep vein thrombosis and pulmonary embolism. Lack of movement or injury to the veins, usually lack of movement. And for women, if you are pregnant or you have birth control pills, you can get it. And people who are overweight, obese, people who smoke, or people with cancer, they tend to get it. People with heart failure, inflammatory bowel disease, or you have a personal or family history of DVT. Sometimes DVT is unprovoked. It can happen out of the blue. Normal person. And you may be moving your limbs and all that, you still can get it. It's unprovoked. We don't know why, but it happened. So we warn. Treatment and complications. Deep vein thrombosis is usually treated with thinners. And as we see just now, it's frequently followed by pulmonary embolism. It can be fatal. Take note of this. So you must get help immediately. So after you get DVT, there may be pain, swelling, skin color changes, damage to vein, and because you're taking blood thinners, like all heart patients, there is always a risk of bleeding as a result of the use of blood thinners. Any heart disease or stroke patients here? No?
Well, already fit up. Wow, good.
So the way to prevent, very simple things. Activity, don't smoke, and manage your weight. These three are the crucial things. Hemophilia. Hemophilia is an inherited bleeding disorder. Blood is not able to clot properly, so your blood cannot clot. You bleed. And after surgery, after injury, after any trauma, you would bleed. And it has been identified as due to the fact that your clotting factors, clotting depends on a whole series of factors. Factor 8 and factor 9. Factor 8 is associated with classic hemophilia. Factor 9 has been called Christmas disease. Don't ask me why it's called Christmas. But that's what it's called. So you have Christmas disease, you have factor 9 deficiency. The gene is recessive and is carried on an X chromosome. X chromosome is one of the sex chromosomes. XY is a male, Y is a female, Y is a male chromosome, so XY give you a male. XX give you a female. So the treatment is to replace the missing factors by infusing the factor that is missing. So these are some things. So if the mother is a carrier, so she carry one X gene which is hemophilia, the other gene is normal. When she mate with a normal male, this is normal, this is normal. One child, because it's XY, there's no X to balance it, so the X will be expressed fully, isn't it? So this child will be hemophilia. The daughter will be a carrier. What happens if the father is hemophilia? The guys will be okay because they get the Y from the father, the X from the mother, which is normal. Okay? So all the sons will be normal. The daughter will be a carrier. Right? This also is normal. Now if the mother is hemophilia, what happens? The father is unaffected, so all the guys will be carriers. This is a carrier, okay? This also should be a carrier, 15% chance that a son will have hemophilia. Okay, so these are the genetics of it. Because it's a bleeding disorder. There are about 200 hemophilia patients in Singapore, so it's not uncommon. Alright? Blood cancers, leukemias, you hear about it very frequently, isn't it? Our Lee Siam Lung also has leukemia, right?
Lymphoma.
Huh?
He's lymphoma.
Lymphoma is also blood cancer.
Blood cancer.
Yeah. So symptoms include tiredness, anemia, bleeding, and all that. These are all the symptoms of anemia, lack of blood, irritation, and so forth. And they are common among all the blood cancers. So this is leukemia, lymphoma, and myeloma. The presentation is different. Okay. That's why they are identified differently, but they are all blood cancers. So, as far as leukemias are concerned, there are two types. One is chronic lymphocytic leukemia. The other is acute myeloid leukemia. It's a slow-growing cancer, later life, blood, bone marrow affected, no cure, no treatment either. And it's rare under 40 years. There's people who get it are elderly. There are targeted medication. There are medications specific for this leukemia. And the spleen is enlarged, so sometimes they will remove the skin. Terahertz have been used. Radiation has been used for leukemias, and reports are very encouraging. And not surprising, as we say earlier on, anything on the surface, it can reach very effectively. Anything deep, it can also reach, but it may have some difficulty reaching it. And terahertz, blood vessels, they go everywhere, including your skin, right? So your blood will definitely pass through your blood vessel and the skin, and terahertz is definitely effective. It's been tried. And we know that terahertz is effective in cancer anyway. Acute myeloid leukemia, this is an aggressive cancer. At 5-year survival for young patients, 28%. That means only 28% of people who have it will survive. As you get older, more survival. So the side effects of treatment sometimes persist even though the person has recovered. That's the thing about this cancer. 90% of adults diagnosed with it, they can completely recover, and it's believed that there is some gene mutation at work. So normally what happens is they use chemotherapy or radiation to kill the cancer cells, and they do a stem cell transplant. And THZ radiation is effective. As in previous talks I explained that for cancer cells, THZ is able to demethylate. That means cancer cells depends on methylation, the process called methylation, where methyl group is added to the DNA so that it can produce. THZ has the ability to demethylate, that means remove the methyl group so the cancer cannot multiply. And so ineffectively it stops the cancer cell from growing. But if you have cancer, see a specialist first. Don't you know Steve Jobs? Steve Jobs has cancer, so he tried all the natural remedies, and it didn't quite work. And by then he realized it didn't quite work. He started to see a doctor. It was too late, and that's why he died so young. I think in these cases, medical cases, see proper specialists. This is a home health device. I don't recommend that you use it solely for yourself because you are not a specialist in any disease. Okay, that's my best advice to you. It does work. It's not to say it doesn't work, but for your own protection. So, stem cells. This helps you to explain. There's a myeloid stem cell, okay, and there's a lymphoid stem cell. Okay, the lymphoid stem cell produces lymphocytes. The myeloid series produce red blood cells, platelets, and the neutrophils. And these are your white blood cells. When you understand this, you also understand why things are different. Okay? So, these are the lymphocytes. This is chronic lymphocytic leukemia. This is acute myeloid leukemia. Okay? So lymphoma, fifth most common cancer, is a cancer of lymphocytes. What happens is that the lymphocytes accumulate in your lymph nodes. So your lymph nodes is swollen. It can be called Hodgkin's or non-Hodgkin's. Hodgkin's affect the T cells, non-Hodgkin's affect the B cells, and both adults and children can get it. I don't know which one this Saint Long have. I'm not his doctor, so I can't tell you. But effective treatment is available for all lymphomas. And they can either be slow growing, they are called indolent, and they can be aggressive types, which are very fierce and multiply. But for blood cancers are very unique because of the nature of blood cells. So a lot of the leukemias and lymphomas and all that have targeted treatment. That means for the specific leukemia or lymphoma you have, there is a specific treatment, medication that's specific for that leukemia. So because it's highly specific, there's no point giving you all that because it will change all the time. So targeted treatment is available for all types. That's the good news. So that's where all the lymph nodes are, all over the body, around the neck, under the armpit, this elbow area, groin, the knees. These are inside, inside your stomach, abdominal cavity, all the lymph nodes and the spleen especially, the thymus gland especially. So those inside you can't feel, but those along your upper limbs and your neck you can feel. So this is a lymph node along the neck. Okay. This is a rash that occur together with the lymph nodes. Enlargement. Myeloma is a very unique blood cancer. It's cancers of plasma cells that produce antibodies. And so they're in the lymph nodes and everywhere. But a very it's quite similar to Hodgkin's. And but myeloma has a tendency to, because they tend to be very, they multiply a lot, so they tend to push out the white blood cells and the platelets, okay? And they cause symptoms. The thing is, they always occur in the bone marrow, so bones are affected. In fact, I still remember as a medical student when I get posted to the orthopedic unit, the first patient I clerked was a teenager who has myeloma. And she started off with bone pain and bone swelling. And they found it was a myeloma. I feel very sad for her because she's a young girl, obviously intelligent, until she got this myeloma. So there's bone pain, there's nausea, constipation, mental confusion, and frequent infection because they produce antibodies, and if the antibodies are not produced, you begin to prone to infection. So again, you see the lymph node. Because it produces antibodies, it is actually from this line. It's a plasma cell. So normal bone marrow appear like that. In multiple myeloma, all you see are nothing but plasma cells. So these are all the things. From bone fractures because it affects the bone, kidney, infection, confusion, breathlessness, fatigue, feeling unwell, weight loss, spinal cord compression because then the bone again, and frequent urination. So we mentioned quite a few times about the bone marrow. So we got to say a bit about the bone marrow, right? It's found in the centers of long bones, your femur, your leg bone, and perhaps the tibia, and to some extent the humerus. But the most important are the long bones of the legs and your pelvis, the hip bone. It's a soft, spongy tissue with many blood vessels. The red marrow contains stem cells. If you have in animals, you have eaten the bone marrow of animals, you can see the red and the yellow marrow. Yellow marrow contains fat and fat cells. Stem cells can develop into red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets. And these stem cells are critical to ensure that your body has a supply of red blood cells, white blood cells, and so forth. Red marrow is gradually replaced by yellow marrow, which is fat, and this is the result of aging. That's why we know that as you get older, you have less stem cells available in your body. It's a given. It's rich. Your bone marrow is rich in collagen and glucosamine. That's why people like to suck at the bone marrow. And I'm told that some bak kut teh has made from bony, from bone, grinding bone, right? Those of you who love it. So that's why it is. It's a spongy bone, and inside it is like that. And here you can find the blood stem cells that produce red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Okay. So, you know what is MAC? It's not a MAC. MAC stands for mature adipose tissue. As you get older, more and more of your marrow is replaced by fat.
Strap in the
So,
Oh, okay.
aging, calorie restriction, diabetes, hyperlipidemia, growth hormone deficiency, glucocorticoid, estrogen, and other factors. So in this bone, as you get older, this bone becomes like this, and where you see the yellow,
one step
Yeah.
you cannot get.
your red marrow becomes yellow marrow. Okay. Blood cancer treatment. Let's summarize. First thing, wait and see. Some leukemias are not aggressive.
Huh?
This recommended if you go for treatment, chemotherapy is effective. Stem cell transplant from a donor. Now, immunotherapy is very effective in blood cancers, and it has been attempted where you actually create your own antibodies against a specific cancer. This is one of the newest innovations in recent years, immunotherapy. Targeted therapy, that means specific medication for a specific cancer. More and more these two are the thing. Both terahertz and infrared therapies tried with encouraging results, and this is certainly true. We know that. I want to say a little bit about stem cell transplant. Terahertz is able to encourage your body to produce more stem cells, to generate more stem cells. It has that ability. But I think there is also a case because of this availability of increasing stem cells by taking plant extracts that stimulate stem cell production in your body. Why I say this is a very simple thing. Your red marrow get replaced by matured adipose tissue, right? And become bone marrow, yellow marrow. And that is why as you get older, you find that your recovery from injury takes longer. It takes longer, and that's because of a lack of stem cells. In elderly, recovery takes longer. So that is an indication that your stem cell is inadequate. So while this helps, you can further stimulate stem cell production by taking the right stimulants to encourage your stem cell to proliferate. So your recovery will be better like a young person. This one you can do for yourself.
Excuse me,
This is what you can do for yourself.
our hospital doing the RP, radiation treatment, are they using the terahertz?
I don't know. I'm not in that hospital. You ask them. Okay? I'll be very frank with you. Because there's so many advances and different people do different things. So, that's what you can do for blood cancers. This is what stem cell treatment is like. First of all, you receive treatment, chemotherapy to kill the cancer cells, and then stem cell transplant. Now, a word about immunotherapy. In immunotherapy, the traditional method is to use radiation or drug. You kill the cancer cells as well as the healthy cells, and there are many side effects. In immunotherapy, what we do is we stimulate their own immune system to selectively kill cancer cells. The key word is selective. And when it's selective, there is practically no side effects because it's selective. And that's why the new novel technique used very often nowadays. So how is it done? How do you unleash the power of the immune system to defeat cancer? Well, cellular therapy, transfer of human cells to replace disease cells, immunomodulators, oncolytic virus therapy, monoclonal antibody, cancer treatment vaccine. There are many types. In fact, if I understand it correctly,
I can't talk to you now.
what is the technology for vaccine? mRNA, right?
Yeah.
Huh? mRNA, right? mRNA, the lifespan in the body is for 30 minutes. mRNA was developed as a treatment vaccine. Cancer treatment vaccine. It was developed for cancer. So, whether it works or not is in the balance because of Pfizer's lies, and they are being prosecuted. The thing is, the verdict, the scientific verdict, is still not known because, notwithstanding Pfizer's lies, what is the scientific evidence? Obviously, they lie, and for that lie, they have to be punished for that. But the scientific evidence is not as clear-cut as we want it to be, but obviously that technology is useful. That technology is useful because gene therapy is also used in cancers. Okay? And gene therapy is also carried out using the same technique. For example, if I want to do gene therapy for you and you suffer from something, alright? So I got to put the gene inside a virus. Okay? And that virus has to be ingested by you. When that virus is ingested by you, when that virus goes into your cell, the gene will be activated. See? That's how we introduce gene into people. That's how we do gene therapy. Gene therapy has been experimented on since the 60s. So it's a long history of using that. It's not something recent. But obviously the last pandemic has excited a lot of debate and everybody become an expert in vaccination after COVID, which is very surprising. So, having gone through this, you would know that a lot of things depends on your choices. Whether it's due to anemia, due to deficiency of B12, folate, or whatever it is what you eat. Whether you're exposed to pollutants, asbestos is the example I gave, but it can be any pollutants. Okay? Then of course, things like deep vein thrombosis is how active you are. The more inactive you are, the more likely you get deep vein thrombosis. So good habits, positive outlook, lower stress, spend time with loved ones, be connected with people. Have a happy, healthy life. Be serious, but make sure there's a lot of fun and laughter. Be serious when you need to, have fun and laughter when you're not serious. So THZ, in my opinion, repair and regenerate, make you look and feel younger. Reminder, not suitable, very suitable for all this: inflammation, pains, blockades, and skin. And you know why after hearing my talks. Okay? Not recommended for pregnancies, acute disease, subjects, implants, and congenital conditions. Open wound and fracture, I have a qualifier. There has been research paper that say that THZ waves are very effective even in wound healing. Even open is effective. That's what the research paper says.
How about bruises?
Later on. So, because of that, I want to qualify this. I don't think this is accurate anymore in the view of what scientists have found. That is even effective in open wounds and all that. Okay? So, thank you. You can contact me at this. This is a bioresonance scan which I do for people. This helps you to discover which part of the body may not be functioning normally, so you can use that information to blow the appropriate area. Okay? So that's how it works. It scans different organs in your body and it can show you. So this is scanning the heart. You'll benefit from this talk. Please support me by either booking a bioresonance scan with me. I have written 2 books which are there, Conquering Stress and Conquering Panic Attacks. Support me by buying my books or use my service so that I'll be encouraged to give you good stuff every time. I have some courses online for stress and for overcoming trauma. Again, support me by using my products and using my services so that I'll be encouraged to give you better lectures next time. Thank you very much. Now